Israel and Hamas blaming each other for impeding a ceasefire and hostage deal. This as Antony Blinken arrived in Tel Aviv to press for that agreement. The US Secretary of State on his 9th visit to the region since the war broke out last October. He's set to meet with Israeli officials before travelling on to Egypt. And let's bring in Dan Williams in Tel Aviv for more on the story. Dan, what are the sticking points in the ceasefire talks? We keep waiting for a deal, none yet forthcoming.
We do indeed, and to judge from a Hamas statement issued last night, slap bang in the middle of what were meant to be pivotal meetings at the end of last week in Doha and toward the end of this week in Cairo, it would appear from that Hamas statement that we really are pretty much at square one. The most salient, the most immediate sticking points cited by both sides are over the fate of two strategic corridors in the Gaza Strip. Israel wants to keep its forces, its troops in those, saying that this is what is needed to prevent arms smuggling to Hamas, to prevent Hamas moving to the northern Gaza Strip. Hamas wants a total withdrawal of Israeli troops as part of this proposed ceasefire. And really, this points to a far deeper dispute, a dispute that has been with these talks from the outset, which is over the endgame. Now, a ceasefire is by definition temporary, and Israel has said as soon as this ceasefire expires, this one is agreed, Israel will continue its fight to dismantle and disarm Hamas. Hamas, however, wants the ceasefire to be the end of the Israeli offensive against it. It wants it to be the beginning of a recovery of the Gaza Strip with Hamas still in charge. It's very hard to see how that sustained, enduring gap can be bridged, though, of course, the Americans really are mustering a big effort by sending their top diplomat out here. And there has been evidence that the Americans and the two Arab mediator countries, Qatar and Egypt, are really reading off the same page as they try to push the sides towards some kind of deal that would wind down this war before it hits the 11th month mark.
But despite those talks going on, you've had cross-border fire between the Israel Defense Forces and Hezbollah intensifying. You've had total blackout in Lebanon. Do you want to just bring us up to date on the latest on Israel's northern border?
Well, the blackout in Lebanon would appear on the face of it to be tied with the parlous economic situation in that country. There have been power cuts before, including before this war, but it certainly contributes to Lebanese misery and concern over what appears to be an escalation vector, a serious escalation vector in the south between Hezbollah and Israel. Now, the region has been bracing for a threatened Hezbollah escalation of attacks on Israel, perhaps in concert with Iran, since those countries blamed Israel for a back-to-back assassination of top militants in Beirut and Tehran just a couple weeks ago. What we're seeing now is a drumroll of fire, of exchanges of fire, between Israel and Hezbollah. However, these would appear to be within the unwritten rules of engagement between those two, meaning not as far north as Beirut, not as far south as Haifa in northern Israel. So for now, this would appear to be more of what we've seen going on 10 months now between Israel and Hezbollah. But of course, all it takes is a major strike that inflicts more casualties than intended, perhaps a rocket overshooting, to really tip the region into escalation that could bring in other countries, including potentially Iran itself.